Well, Brian O'Connor didn't come to Starkville to rebuild. He came to win. The man's got Omaha in his DNA, and now he's wearing maroon. But with Mississippi State hungry for a comeback, how high is too high for year one expectations? Let's talk about the pressure, potential, and what success really looks like in 2025.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, my name is Jaron Sporer. I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon. We've got a packed show for you today. Is it Omaha or bust for Brian O'Connor in year one? We got some baseball recruiting notes, both on the transfer portal side, both in the actual high school recruiting side. And then, of course, we have our top dog of the week. But first, we got to kind of talk about Omaha or bust for Brian O'Connor. What are some realistic expectations? We kind of did a podcast talking about why it might not work, why it could work, but now we're just going to go in. What's realistic? Is it Omaha or bust for Brian O'Connor in year one?
I mean, it's getting close to it. I mean, because we originally talked about it. A lot of it is going to depend on what kind of transfer portal class he brings in, right, what the expectations can be. And he's putting together a very good class, and it's not done yet. And we'll get into more of the guys who have been added later, but it's shaping up to be a very good class. He kept pretty much all the key pieces that could come back, or trending to come back, or have said they are going to come back. I don't know if it's quite to Omaha or bust, but it's starting to look that way.
Yeah. And just I wanted to kind of go over some of the things he did in his 22 years with Virginia. 14 straight NCAA appearances from 04 to 17. 7 trips to the College World Series. So he made it, a third of the time, or just under a third of the time. Obviously won the national championship in 2015 and was the runner-up in 2014. He has 66 NCAA tournament wins, tied for the fourth most in the nation from 09 to 24. Like I mentioned, the 7 College World Series appearances, that's the second most of any program nationally since 2009. He has obviously 2 ACC regular season championships, 2 tournament championships, and 5 50-win seasons and 13 seasons with at least 40 victories. So we know his pedigree. We know he lives in the College World Series. I mentioned how he has it in his DNA. At first when I heard this question, I was like, man, year one, I always try to give someone a grace period. Like, I don't care what kind of program they take over. And overall, I'm going to give him a grace period. So I don't want to say World Series or bust. I feel like that's a little too far. It's definitely super regional or bust.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it has to be that.
Yeah, it has to be. And it's still, it's kind of the shadow looming. Henry Ford, if he ends up coming here.
And that's a change. That one might go World Series or bust.
Then I think you have to be World Series or bust at that point, because, I mean, he's already added some protection to this lineup for Ace Reese with Valencius and Teal. I mean, those are 2 good bats to plug in the middle of a lineup. And you had that protection. You brought him back, added some pitching. He is putting together a very complete team. And yeah, we've seen a lot of people go into the transfer portal from Mississippi State, but none of them were your big contributors. They weren't people you were really counting on. They were kind of depth pieces, or, guys that played, but they weren't your ones that you were really building around. So he's put together a very good team. If he keeps adding, it's going to be hard not to put that on him.
Yeah, and you mentioned the transfer portal class, and we'll obviously dive into that more, but we felt the biggest weakness of this team was really 2 things, but the biggest weakness was the pitching. Well, they got some good news about the pitching, so we'll obviously dive into that next, but the other one was just the sloppy errors this team made. When they took off at the end of the year, they stopped making those errors. Now, those kind of came back up. We saw it in the I was about to say in the A&M game. I was trying to think, was it the quarterfinal? Was it with the first round? But it was in the SEC tournament regardless.
Yeah.
Against A&M. We saw them kind of come back. But overall, once Parker took over, Lemonis was out, we saw those kind of get cleaned up. Those were the two biggest issues I felt with last year's team, was they were kind of sloppy, and then obviously the pitching and not a deep pitching staff.
Right.
It was Pico, and then obviously Ciari comes on towards the end, but and then Ben Davis was a solid reliever. But until Evan came on strong at the end, it was kind of like, they don't really have a second option.
Right.
And then I felt like that ran Pico into the ground, because then when Evan started to come around, Pico started playing bad.
Yeah, that's true. And now you have Valencius, who we've talked about. He has the strikeout numbers, the talent, but the ERA was a little bit high. So he gets that cleaned up. There's your one or two, kind of depending on, does Pico actually come back?
Right.
That's on the table. Does Evan take another step forward? What does McPherson do in his second year? So building up, right now there is no true ace. You don't know who your ace is right now.
Yeah.
But you have a bunch of guys who could be very good, like number twos, essentially.
Yeah, and then does Ben take that step where he's now a starter, not just a reliever? He was really solid as a reliever, but Pico was also a reliever, I believe, if I remember correctly, before taking into a starter role. I know he pitched more this past season than he had any of his other years. So So overall, that's kind of the question, who steps up and becomes, especially if Evan takes the jump we think. We will wait and see if Pico decides to come back. Don't think he's going to, but we'll see about that. Yeah. Who takes that spot of Pico's, and then who builds on that afterwards? It could be Ben. Obviously, we believe Valencius is one of those guys. Maybe it's one of the guys that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But overall, it is starting to shape up with this roster right as we speak, has addressed some of the biggest issues. And if they don't make a super regional, you would feel it's a failure. I can't quite go World Series. And that's more of me like I said, I have this philosophy with the first year. I just can't hold those expectations on you. It's like, make the World Series your first year, it's hard to do. Not saying you can't do it, but it's just hard for me to hold you to that. Now, by year 3, you better be in it at least once. But year 1, I don't know. I just can't go there.
I'm with you on that, but I can see how you could put it on O'Connor.
Yeah.
Because he does it, a third of the time he coached, he made it to the College World Series.
Yeah.
And he's coming to a team that was 2 bad innings away from making it to the Super Regionals this year.
That's fair too. Yeah.
And you've plugged the holes, some of them with players he's familiar with, some with just very talented players. And you combine that with his pedigree as a coach, and it's an understandable expectation to think it could happen, because this isn't a rebuild. This is a reload. And I hate using that because every GM says that they're not rebuilding or reloading. Well, that's really what they did, because he just went to the portal and started attacking the holes.
Yeah.
And they're kind of filled now. I mean, you'd like a few more answers on the pitching staff, because right now we got a lot of arms, but a lot of question marks with those arms and what role. But I mean, it's getting to the point where it's an understandable question.
Well, and he's won 70% of his games in his career, which is the second most among Division I coaches. So you feel like you're going to win, obviously, and win at a high level. Now the hope is, the real hope is that you're able to take a leap in your win column, take a leap in SEC play, get a winning record in SEC play. And if you're able to do that, you might be a super regional team. I mean, you just never know what ends up happening. You might even be a College World Series team. But they're starting to put the pieces together. And I feel like baseball, and I've talked about this before, I feel like baseball is one of the easier sports when it comes to adding pieces in the transfer portal. Whereas I feel like it's a much harder in football and even in basketball, although it's easier, I believe, in basketball than it is even football. But because we saw that in the Sweet 16, there was a ton of teams that were just full of transfers. But I feel like baseball might be the easiest of them to do that. And so, I mean, I wouldn't argue with someone that said, hey, this Mississippi State, we've got this roster that we've been adding. This better be a World Series team. I just can never go there personally with me, but I can see the vision. I can see what people are seeing.
Yeah, I do. I can see it too. I'm not there yet, but if someone wants to put that on him, I mean, I get it because of who he is, what this program is, and who has been added.
Right.
It's hard to not see it as a real possibility. I'm just not ready to go all the way there yet.
Yeah, same. Like we mentioned several times, we got some recruiting news. 2 of them are transfer pitchers. So what will they do next year to impact the team? And then one of them is for the 2026 high school recruiting class. We're going to break both of them down. That's coming up next. Well, there's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live, and this year's matchups are already delivering. They have all the way through, and we're seeing it again in the NBA Finals. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Like I said, we're in the finals. You can get them. There's 3 games left, possibly. So you definitely need to do that. If you want in, prices on the app, they actually drop closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. I've used Game Time. The best part I liked about it was being able to see my seat before I purchased. That makes me know that my money is well spent, and I just love that. Also, with Game Time Guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they'll credit me 110% of the difference. You can't beat that, and we've already seen in this playoff a game winner, or in this finals, a game winner, a crazy comeback in game 4, and now it's 2-2 with Oklahoma City and Indiana playing later on tonight. So check out Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So last time we talked, Mississippi State had just added Ryder Woodson, who was an infield freshman from North Carolina State. Obviously a big one. They added 2 more transfers over the weekend. Yeah. That would be right-handed pitcher Maddox Webb, primarily, from what I've read, was used as a closer. And then they also added Jackson Logar from James Madison. I think it's Logar, might be Logar from James Madison. He was a starting pitcher there. So kind of what's your thoughts on the additions?
Maddox Webb has me a little excited. I mean, his strikeout numbers are very good, which you expect from a reliever, someone who's been primarily used as a closer. But I mean, was it 61 strikeouts in 55 and 2/3 innings? That's huge. That's what you want for your relievers. You don't want them putting people on. Only thing that's a little concerning, just peripheral numbers for me, is 34 walks in that many innings is a few too many for my liking. But when you have that many strikeouts and that many walks, that kind of lets you know that he's kind of one of those like controlled wild pitchers. Like he's always around the plate, but his stuff's good enough that he's getting the swing and misses. But if the guys are a little more patient, a little more disciplined, he'll give up a few more free passes than you want.
Yeah, and he Maddox, speaking of him, he pitched an average of about 3 innings a game, so he was coming in for a long save opportunity. I don't know if they'll use him as a closer role. Maybe they'll just use him as a reliever role. Jackson Logar doesn't have a great win-loss record. He's 4-5, but his ERA isn't terrible. It's a 3.53. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. He had 72 strikeouts in those 15 appearances. He's a guy that maybe he takes that step. And again, I do want to preface this. Both guys are sophomores, so they're both young. I mean, they're going into their junior year. They just finished their sophomore year, but both guys are young. And so the thing with Jackson is maybe he can step up and be that starter. Maybe he's now another reliever. But the big thing is you have more capable arms in the bullpen, and that's the big thing.
Yeah, Jackson Logar, he's interesting with his thing that jumped out to me on his stats. Yeah, he started 14 games, appeared in 15. through 74 innings, only gave up 3 home runs. That means he's not serving up balls that people are hitting hard,
Yeah.
which you have to do because, yes, he had 72 strikeouts, not bad, but under a strikeout an inning pitch, that means he's not a strikeout pitcher really. Maybe he does have the stuff and it just hadn't developed quite enough, and that's something maybe we'll see come
Yeah.
this next year. But when you're not striking people out and you're keeping the ball in the yard, you're kind of a throwback pitcher. One of those guys who's going to eat some innings, just pitch to contact, get soft contact. You got to have those guys. Maybe he never develops into like that starter that you're sitting there like, yeah, we got him on the mound. This is going to be a win. But he's the type of pitcher that honestly, he keeps you in games.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And, looking at Maddox Webb's stats, only 2 times did he pitch over 3 innings this past season. One time was a 4-inning game against Western Carolina. He got beat up pretty good, 8 hits, 7 runs. The other one was against Sanford. He lost both appearances, but he only allowed 3 hits in the Sanford game and struck out 8, but he did walk 4. So it does look like he kind of gets a little shaky the longer he's in. His sweet spot is the shorter type games, which he ended up with 5 saves last year. So I think, again, anytime you can get some experience and capable arms in a room that was really desperate for them, that's obviously a plus. And now you got 2 of them. And both guys that you think maybe with the development of Justin Parker and now being coached by Brian O'Connor, maybe that some things start shaking into form, and you might have something special with one of them, even if it's just a reliever. Like we talked about it, that we need relievers. Like we just need anything.
Yeah, they need anything, and these are 2 good guys to add to that. I mean, because we've talked about how the people that are coming back with Tomas Valencias, I believe he's the pitcher.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll figure it out eventually, which one's the pitcher and which one's the
Vitus the other one.
Yeah. I know the names, I just don't know which one goes with which yet. Those are your arms that you're kind of relying on. Now you're looking for the depth pieces and the guys who could surprise and take that next step and make this a very dangerous pitching staff. And these are 2 guys that fill those roles.
Yeah, no doubt. You're right. And also there was some recruiting news in the 2026 class. Mississippi State got a big one. This was Noah. Let's see how you pronounce this last name. Danza. That's what.
No relation to Tony.
Nope, no relation. Noah Danza. He was one of the primary and prize recruits at Virginia. Well, he has announced he is changing his college commitment to Mississippi State. We wondered if those would start coming. This one has. He has a 9.5 prospect score by perfect game, which is really good.
Very good.
He's 6'2", 195 pounds. Like I said, he made a verbal commitment to Virginia originally and has now switched to follow Mississippi State and O'Connor. He had a 318 batting average this past season. He had 6 doubles, a couple home runs, a triple, scored 27 times. So solid season.
Yeah, he's a good pickup. He's one of those, you wondered when this was going to start happening, and it is. And he's a very good one to have in. And he goes into a little bit of detail saying main reason he came was because of O'Connor and because of McMullen, and that he said there's no one else I'd rather play for.
Yeah.
Huge. And he hadn't even visited Mississippi State yet, but
he just knew who he's playing for. That's why the biggest bunch of bogus that I've ever heard is recruits really shouldn't. They need to pick a school, not a coach. That's just not. That's not what they do.
No, that's not what they do at all. They play for the coach.
You get some that are diehard that school fans growing up and go, but overall, it's
the coach.
Whether we like it or not, the coach makes the school.
Yes. They do. And he says all he knows is what he's read online in the videos, but after he committed, he's gotten a ton of new followers and a bunch of people reaching out. So, I mean,
that checks out.
Yeah, it does. So I think he's going to be a good one, good size, 6'2", almost 200 pounds as a shortstop in high school. That's good size. Does play a little outfield. He also said, I'll play wherever they need me to, which you love that, especially from these players. I think you see it more in baseball with like the very good high school players. They're really open to doing whatever they have to do to help the team win. And having guys like that on team is always good.
Yeah, you need those, and I will see if this now starts a chain reaction where more of
Yes.
those start switching over. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But all right, coming up next, we have our top dog of the week. I am giving one out to a guy that I've given it out to before, and I can't remember for the life of me if I've given it out to him 2 weeks in a row, and this will be the third week. So we'll see about that. But we got that coming up next. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, who is your top dog of the week?
All right, well, I'm going to go to track and field for this one. Going to go a little off the beaten path. And Peyton Bear, won the NCAA decathlon champion, set 2 NCAA records. One was the 5th fastest in decathlon history. So shout out to him. Track and field, there's so many events, there's so many people competing. We would never have enough time to talk about everything that they do out there, but that is an awesome thing to have a NCAA title in is decathlon.
And after I was thinking about it during the break, I think mine last week I went off the path and I think I went like NCAA or something for stuff they've done. I am I have done this one before. I'm going back to Justin Parker, and it's because of the pitchers we just mentioned. But obviously, he got McPherson to stay, Evans to stay. We'll see if he can get Pico to stay. They got Valencius to come. And I know Valencius was more tied to Brian O'Connor, but they got these guys to come. And again, we talked about this when Parker was retained. He took over a very poor room, had built it up decently. There were still flaws, but he is continuing to bring in guys that I feel help the team. Arms that can actually pitch, because there's sometimes they've had several pitchers, but only 3 or 4 you actually trust to go out there. I feel like you have more guys you trust now. And again, this only goes up if Pico commits as well. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But overall, hats off to Justin Parker for the job he's done.
Yeah, he's done a very good job. Did a great job at the end of the season as interim head coach too, keeping the team, from going off the rails. It would have been very simple for that to happen, and he kept them rolling. But no, he's putting together a room, and if he helps all these guys take a step forward, he's not going to be the pitching coach long. He'll get a job somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the one thing you rest in, especially because he did a good job last year. So when he's up for jobs, if he does well, obviously if the staff does well again, they're going to remember, hey, when he was interim for a little bit, he did do a really good job at Mississippi State, turning them around and getting them into the tournament. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But no, hats off to him, because, again, just to see where this room was when he took over, and then you look at the room now, and that's not including if Pico stays. You just look at it now, and it's a night and day difference.
Yeah, huge difference. I'm excited to see. Maybe there's another arm or two coming out of the portal too. I don't know how many of the top arms are still out there really, but hey, this could be a very good pitching staff.
And now we just need Pico to stay, and then it might be you get him to stay, you get Henry Ford to stay. I might go off script and do a College World Series or bust.
Hey, that might happen. And if Henry Ford comes, Pico might be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll come back. Let's go chase that ring.
Yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening, but it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But all right, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jared. Check out my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We post daily videos Monday through Friday, so check those out. We also post a comment under every YouTube video. We love the feedback on that. We also post a poll question. We love your feedback on that. And I did remember to pull this one up to read this one off. And I'm going to read last week's first, since I forgot to do that Friday. But let's see. It was so Thursdays was first. So how should Mississippi State prioritize its NIL budget under the new cap? That's the question we asked. Balance between football and baseball, won in a landslide. 59% voted on that one. So that one took off. 14% was equal distribution across all sports. 16% was prioritized sports with the highest revenue potential. And 11% was focused primarily on football. Then we asked, what are your thoughts on the elite Mississippi State football jerseys? That was a big topic. 35% said they're too plain, need more design. Another person said, indifferent. Or 29% said, indifferent. The jerseys don't matter much to me. Fair. And then 18% were the gray ones are a disaster and love them, especially the all-white look was also 18%. So great feedback. We obviously love that. So, yeah, until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.